So let's give everyone a bit of context. So Rafat, you have built several businesses, most recently Skift, and you are one of the most influential voices in travel. And while other media businesses perhaps chase scale, I think you've stayed firm to maintaining a smaller size but exceptional quality of reporting, actually. And I remember when I first discovered Skift, which was when I was sort of becoming, sort of more of an expert in the industry as well. And we worked across many different sectors. This podcast covers many different sectors, but I remember thinking how it was a really refreshing industry publication that just was to the point, well designed, good UX, good design. Yeah. It felt readable and engaging, and I couldn't put my finger on it, but I gravitated towards it. And this is the truth. I think at a certain point, I think you described what you do as like the anti-BuzzFeed. I mean, BuzzFeed's not even around anymore.
Well,
so
I didn't describe it. CNBC did the story with the headline. Yeah.
Right. It's a good headline. It's just a business without bloat. Prior to Skift, I think you had 2 exits under your belt.
Well, one exit. One exit. Yeah. I mean, I built this I was one of the early bloggers in the world. When I first came to US, I discovered blogging through a newspaper article in Chicago Tribune one morning. This is a true story. And I remember sitting I was on a couch like this, reading the Chicago Tribune. This was Indiana. I was at IU at my apartment. And I read this article from this woman called Julia Keller. I still remember the author. And she was, at that point, it wasn't even called blogs. It was called weblogs. Because
weblogs.
Yeah. And blogger.com hadn't launched. A bunch of other software to use blogging hadn't launched yet. Anyway, so I remember reading it and literally jumping off the couch and said, wow, what is this thing? This is the future. Some version of that in my head. And then so I gravitated towards that. As a journalist, I was in IU, Indiana for my master's in journalism. And I said I could marry journalism with the speed and the rawness of blogging. The promise of blogging was at all times, whenever you come to the blog, it'll be fresh material. So sort of sped up in terms of time. And it would be written in a personal voice. And so I gravitated towards journalism meets personal voice pretty early in my career. And sort of that thread has played out in how we build Skift, as in we always have a point of view on how we look at the world. We always want to create our own white space in the world. So for me, the most important thing that we've done with Skift is to sort of is to put original thought out into the world, because that's the most important measure for me of your contribution to the world. How much original thought. It may be original in the sense that totally new, or it would be a new way of looking at all things. Because there's only so much original thing you can put out. But if you figure out new ways of looking at the world, I've said this to myself and to our team all along, is when people talk about innovation in any industry, the default reaction is startups equal innovation, right? That's generally in luxury or tech or media, whatever. Our definition of it is
how you frame things.
How you frame things constantly in a new way. That's innovation.
I think it's really important. I mean, you said you don't drink, and I think
except for chai that we're drinking.
Except for chai, but no alcohol. And I actually use this example. I do this teach a couple of modules at EHL, and it uses non-alcoholic categories. A good example of just framing. It's like if you put something on if you call something non-alcoholic gin, you can charge $25 for it. But if you called it cordial, you'd never get away with charging more than $5. I mean,
so the profit margins on non-alcoholic drinks is higher than alcoholic.
Of course. But it's interesting, the value references, the anchoring, the framing, basically what category you put yourself in and how the angle you choose to talk about things.
Intermittent fasting.
Exactly.
It's another one.
Yeah, exactly.
Welcome to Muslims. We've been fasting for centuries.
I intermittent fast. I don't eat. I haven't, other than that smoothie, I haven't eaten today. But for me, it gives me I have so much more energy. I don't do it for any reasons other than just the fact that I have a huge amount of energy when my body's not constantly processing things.
Yeah.
So, Rafat, how old is Skift? Tell us a bit about how it came to be.
13 years, yeah. It's actually July. We're recording this in July. July 30th, 2012 is when it launched. So it's going to be 13 years this month.
I feel that over those 13 years, we've watched people value experience over possessions more.
Yeah, 100%. I think that there was a phase we started writing about experiences over things early on in Skift. And then COVID hit. And there was a huge rush towards things because people were trapped in their houses.
Mm.
And then, but when they came back, boy, they came back for experiences. You know this very well because you and I are in the travel industry.
Yeah.
And so, and the young people sort of define their lives through this intersection of sort of travel and retail and food. That's my, I've written about it before, sort of the intersection of travel, food, and retail. And travel being a huge part of it, whether it's driven by experiences over things, whether it's driven by sort of the bragging rights of social media that certainly play a role in it, or just, I hope it's affordability and curiosity sort of put together. People seem to know a lot more, want to know a lot more about the world because so many of our things are available in digital that you see them and you want to go see in person. So I think that secular trend of travel / experiences, unlike the industry I was in the media industry covering the business of media, which is in a secular decline, at least the traditional structured media versus travel. I mean, at some point when the world hits peak population, which it seems like it's going to happen in the next few decades.
Do you think we're going to go into declining population?
Yeah, I mean, this is not just me. I'm not an expert, but I've been obsessed with
the fifth stage of the demographic transition.
Demographic. So I've been reading a lot on that and what it means for the world. Like there's a stat that blew my mind that in 2050, which is 25 years from now, not that far.
Yeah.
1 in 4 young people under 25 will be African, and 1 in 3 in the world will be African. Is the world ready for it in 25 years? What that means is, like, will the culture become predominantly or a huge part become African influenced?
Yeah.
You're seeing London probably at the cusp of this stuff because a lot of African flow and culture comes through London, at least in the Western world. New York and US, not at all. And so it'll be very interesting in the food bleeding over from different parts of Africa to here. So it'll be very fascinating. So what it means for the travel industry, we think about the magazines, which don't matter at all anymore, the travel magazines. Do you think travel magazines matter anymore?
I don't read them.
Yeah, neither do I. Neither do we come across anybody in the any executive in the travel industry that cares.
Yeah.
It used to be all white people on the cover, white people in the editorial enjoying brown places or black places, countries. That's changed and changing, and the media hasn't kept up with it, which is why whatever we want to call them, creators, influencers, etc., have taken over, but many other reasons for it, but also that they're more representative of what the world is.
I think at the end of the day, like, we will always value, when things sort of need to be anchored in the tangible, but that doesn't necessarily mean it has to be printed pages and for example, the dinners and the conferences that Skift do, and in fact we're going to Estelle Manor on Wednesday, to get, there are other forms of expressing value that don't necessarily have to be, the things we used to.
Yeah.
No.
Do you know about Kids of the Colony? It's a British show.
Tell me about it.
So Kids of the Colony, as the name, is actually 3 British kids, 1 Bangladeshi, 1 Somali, and 1 Yemeni. Another one Moroccan, I think 4, that are taking the other 3 friends back to their countries. It's a YouTube show. It's become hugely popular. I only got to know through my co-founder, Jason, about a month ago. and you should go on YouTube.
I'll go and have a look at it.
And it's very interesting because it's three or four kids as in like, I'm going to say in their 20s, having fun going back. Like one kid who is from Bangladesh, for instance, the first series is about Bangladesh, taking his other three friends and having loads of fun. These are all Muslim kids. So it's not like they're going drinking, anything like that. But it's fascinating because it's unlike any travel show you've ever seen. Because it's one multicultural kids that are gone back to where their families came from, countries that used to be colony of UK primarily.
Yeah.
And then they navigate it in such a different way than any quote unquote travel anchor will ever do. And this is YouTube native. So that's as much as part of me coming from media, mourn some of the old school stuff that's gone. This is amazing. What's replacing it is amazing. It's just that surfacing that obviously is a different mechanism that it used to be before. But in fact, the guy is going to speak, one of the main characters that is going to speak at our conference, Skift Global Forum, September.
Had any of the characters had any previous?
No, nothing. So and now BBC picked up, or BBC did a show on them or something like that.
How hard do you think it is in the media to not become a victim of your own success when it comes to how you express yourself? You know, when you come to something new and you have nothing to lose, you know, you just say it how it is.
Yeah.
You know, and suddenly you have this sort of pressure, you have an audience, there's an expectation around what you're supposed to deliver.
Well, that's true for anything, right?
Yeah, that's true.
I guess bringing it back to Skift a little bit, like initially when we launched 13 years ago, everybody said you're fresh and cool.
Yeah.
The problem being said cool is that at some point you become uncool.
Yeah.
Just a fact of life.
Yeah.
So part of my thinking always 13 years in is like, how do we keep the coolness? And by coolness, I mean freshness and relevance. Relevance really, I mean, like, because that's the currency. And that's why we keep launching new things, keep coming up with new terms, even though they might be gimmick. I don't know if you know this, we coined the word overtourism. That sort of became the lingo in the industry. I recently coined the term live tourism, which has some traction. And live tourism meaning umbrella term for mass live experiences, whether music or entertainment like Taylor Swift or concerts or sports, obviously a huge part of it. And some of these people like come up with like film tourism, which I guess is not live tourism, but it's people going to see whatever Harry Potter, wherever it is.
The White Lotus effect.
White Lotus stuff. But live tourism, we also do it, one, to cement our own brand, but also, to, as you said, for a shorthand for the industry to understand. Sometimes it bleeds over to the consumer side, like over-tourism did. And over-tourism was just me putting over and tourism together. And that became like the Telegraph coined it the term of the year a year after the thing came out, et cetera, et cetera. So
what's your relationship with the media, like the sort of the Telegraphs of this world?
So I've always been a bomb thrower in the media industry. I finally got rid of Twitter from my life, which was just such, after 13, 14, 15 years of having a poisonous relationship, love-hate relationship with Twitter. This January, I finally gave up.
So you shut the account down?
No, I haven't shut it down.
You just don't use it?
I just don't use it. I finished Facebook many years ago. I never went on Instagram. I used to call it Instacrap, and I was totally wrong about IG and how big it became. I thought it won't become big, but it did, obviously.
It's the only thing I use.
But I can see how it's meaningful if used in the right ways. Not on Snapchat, none of that. TikTok, none of that. The only thing left now is LinkedIn, which is
same.
Obviously work.
But do you ever get tempted on TikTok, for example, given its influence in travel?
No, I mean, I turned 51. I turned 50 last year and 51 this year. Not that I'm behind in technology, but I'm not the earliest adopter in general for technology. I don't even know if I'm the first follower. I don't know what the term after first follower would be, second follower.
Second mover advantage type thing.
Yeah, so I'm sort of that. I'm not a fast follower, but I'm not slow follower either, somewhere in between.
Okay.
I do, on the AI tools, I was early adopter there. Like ChatGPT, the weekend it came out, I logged in and I said, wow, this is incredible. But I'm
It is
not
incredible.
chasing like the latest agentic tool from ChatGPT. So I'm sort of, we're not killing ourselves chasing. This is the thing. I don't want to kill myself chasing. Because otherwise, how do you create your own path if you're just chasing somebody? And that's kind of the philosophy that I've brought in my personal life as well as for Skift as well.
I want to talk about what you believe AI is going to do to your industry, the media industry, because...
Okay. I thought you were going to ask travel, but yes.
Well, both actually, to be honest.
Well, I mean, media is the death knell for media in general.
Yeah.
The generalized media that was built on chance discovery through these Facebooks or Instagrams or Apple News or whatever. One of the things I've said is like, unless you have a core, or you are the exception of like the New York Times, because New York Times and BBC are exceptions to the norm. The middle will die. It's already dead most of the time. So either very large or small and focused. And I wrote this article last year on how totally obsolete media has become, mainstream media has become. And I feel like that was my last article I ever wrote on media, because like that was the mic drop moment. I said, I'm done writing about media.
Right.
Which is, it's obsolete on 4 different vectors: structural, cultural, moral, and there's one more. It starts with something.
Okay, fine.
The first one. How am I forgetting that? On 4 vectors.
We'll come back to
and it is, if you go to my Twitter, that's the last article I wrote.
Okay.
It's pinned there, I think, at the top. Every word lands hard in that article.
Okay.
If I can say so myself.
Yeah.
And the moral is the most sort of advanced version of it. And my disillusionment with media has happened for years, mainstream media, but particularly over the last year and a half after, and I think I can say it based here in UK as I'm doing this versus US, but based on what happened after October 7th in terms of the coverage of the war that happened between Israel and Palestine there. And you realize, and sort of a version of that, just my personal disillusionment played out in America during the election cycle as well. There's a reason why podcasts became that big as part of the election news analysis influence cycle. Because so many people, it's not just Republicans or red-pilled people. It is overall. People are realizing how much of framing goes on, and because it's been called out so much, people are beginning to have an understanding of it way better than ever. People in the East knew how biased Western media was historically. I feel like in the West, the awakening has really happened in the last year and a half, 2 years. Not just because of this, but also because of elections. Not just because of the war, but also because of the elections. And there's a reason why alternative media is thriving. I mean, YouTube is the center of the world. How can it not be at this point? YouTube really is the center of the world today. It's not TikTok. It is YouTube. And YouTube is the world's second largest search engine, also owned by the same company. It's certainly all podcasting. I stopped also going off Twitter. I also went off Netflix and Hulu and Amazon Video also the same time.
Really?
So my evenings are now, after dinner, after the kids, wife, etc., is basically either watching YouTube on my phone or listening. And it's interesting for me, audio, and I don't know if this is for you, audio video has blended into a single seamless thing, and I don't know when the audio finishes and video starts. Video starts, audio takes over. I think that's very much because of YouTube. because like, for instance, your podcast, if there's a new guest, I may start with what I don't need to watch. The new guest I would want to watch just to get the gestures and after that I may switch in between, which is interesting. Some of the like, for instance, Jon Stewart show, it gets tons of views on YouTube, but I bet most of them are video YouTubes because it's not structured for you to listen. As in, he will show a lot of things that you have to like see the screen. And it's annoying to me. Like, make it audio friendly also, even though I'll probably watch it either way. So anyway, point is that a lot of media, and I've said this on the record, New York Times for its earnings are at an all-time high. I think culturally it's becoming obsolete, and people have laughed at me for saying that, but I bet that in 10 years, the news portion of New York Times, not the other sports and games and stuff like that, will become less and less culturally relevant as an organization, as a media entity that defines public thought in U.S., policy in U.S.
That's interesting.
I may be wrong.
Well, if it stops being culturally relevant, then what is it?
Then the business itself will fall apart. Typically, cultural irrelevance comes first.
Totally.
Then the business follows. So that's kind of my contention with the New York Times.
What do you think the impact of AI on travel will be?
So I think the real action is not the front end, as in booking, etc. It's the back end processes and revenue management and
supply chain
operations
stuff
and
like that.
All the stuff that is happening in every other industry. That's where, and in our industry, particularly in the luxury world that you exist in and we partly cover, lots of labor is required. And in the Western world, labor is at a premium now. And so certainly that automation part is automation through AI is where a lot of the action will be. I mean, itinerary planning is like it's sort of a head fake. It's an easy thing.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Any new, notice this thing, any new AI development that launches, like for instance, Sam Altman will do a video introducing something, or Claude will do something, their CEOs will announce something on video. Almost always they start with an example of flight booking. Almost always.
Yeah.
Because it's the easiest one to illustrate, but it's also the most complex thing to illustrate as well because of the nature of how airlines is. But it's funny, like how all travel examples always come through, but anybody really.
But
I don't know if the search mechanism. Initially, when ChatGPT launched, I said it's over. I've been saying since 2015 that the tyranny of I've used the phrase the tyranny of the search box. This is travel search box, which is date, destination, whatever. If it's hotel, there's a like that search box has not changed since 1996.
Yeah.
Right. In a conversational interface or voice interface, will it change? I don't know. We're used to choices.
And context. And context is
matters.
Context is not just the context that you spell out. It's the design codes, it's the clues, it's the type of, like visual reference. It's like the care that goes into the thing, the framework that sits around the information that allows you to figure out if it's for your preferences, which are ultimately subjective, how much you can trust. And I don't just mean, are they going to scam me or not? I mean, can I trust? They're using the same language that I use to describe ethereal concepts, because, we all basically spend our life since we're born just trying to sort of reorganize the world to suit what we believe is a set of preferences that allow us to express ourselves in our own individual, unique way. How can we stand apart from everyone else, and so I find that really interesting because there is, and that is why it's going to, the higher end something is, and the more preference exists in like a flight booking is like actually quite a difficult thing. You know, you said you arrived today at the Londoner. I texted you in the morning. You said you just landed, you just checked in. I responded back to you. I was like, I always make sure my flights get in for dinner. You know, I mean, that's my just that combined with the airlines that I choose or prefer and the seats and, you know, the airports and, you know, there's just a lot in there.
Yeah.
That's quite difficult.
And also like usually, by the way, that's also my preference is to the 8 a.m. To 8 p.m. flight from New York to London is great because then you can land at 8 p.m. here, do the dinner, and sleep. Even if you sleep late, it's fine. Then you have the full night to it. This was just a special circumstance because I had to meet you and I have a few other meetings as well. So I just didn't want to wait. And then now with 3 kids, I don't want to waste my Sunday in a flight. Yeah. So what we're talking about is AI and travel. So people ask me, many people have asked me, like, what are the AI startups in travel that you're excited about? And the honest answer is I can't name one. So for me, it's all back-end stuff that I'm interested in. Like we did this AI conference and the guy from United spoke and they're using real-time weather data and AI. And I don't think this is Gen AI, this is general AI to figure out in real time at what altitude should the plane fly to have the least fuel burn based on the real-time weather. Obviously within a range. It's not like it's going to go like this. But, and then there was another, I forget which other company.
But if you even optimize that stuff a tiny bit, actually, there's so many flights, it's just huge amounts of fuel.
And then food waste and optimization using AI.
There's a company called Winnow. They're really good. They film, I think Barrowstar piloted it. They literally film what gets chucked out and then they optimize supply around it.
So that type of stuff is fascinating to me. Versus how do I make my booking? I am waiting for a new interface though. And if it comes, if it's voice, it'll be a hybrid, 100%.
Yeah. I'm amazed that no one has cracked it though, like, you know, sort of trip planning. So what are the types of questions that you think need to be solved in the world of travel? If we just take AI out of the conversation for a moment, what's broken?
I think the broken part is still the human to human experience. I mean, just go through a freaking US airport. You'll see everything that's broken. That's just the airport. I don't know how much you expect from an airport, but you do if you go through Doha or Dubai. You start expecting things from an airport that we never did. Certainly in US, we never did. Yeah, I mean, so the human to human part in travel, particularly with labor an issue in the Western world, I think is probably one of the biggest challenges. And talent, one of the things that speak to any CEO in the travel industry from any sector. Maybe they're not like one in this part of the industry, one in that part of the industry. All of them have only one common thread among all of them: talent. Like, how do I get talent? How do I get talent? How do I get talent? The right type of talent. The attractiveness of travel as a sector for the young people coming in. Horrible. The industry has marketed itself horribly versus much higher paying like tech or finance or even media to some extent. And that continues to be a huge challenge. The hospitality schools, I have my own opinions of them.
What is your opinion of?
Outdated in many ways. And they're just hospitality versus the industry that's now such a vast industry beyond just hotel GMs. If all they do is create hotel GMs or revenue managers, then of what use is it in a modern world, except for that?
Well, I think that's actually a problem with education, actually, in general.
I guess there's that.
You know, university education it's absurd. I actually find parts of it's just absurd, actually, to witness how archaic and slow moving it is to adapt to a world that's entirely reconfigured itself.
Yeah. So, I mean, with the 3 young kids that I have that are still probably anywhere from 7, 8 to 12 years away from college, what will college be? If I don't have to pay their fees for the college, that'd be amazing. I'll save so much money.
I wouldn't be sad if my kids didn't go to university.
You know, the other thing they won't be doing? Learning how to drive.
I know. Weird, right?
Yeah, that'd be amazing. That part I'm looking forward to.
I love driving.
No, that part I'm really looking forward to. autonomous cars. I don't like driving.
Yeah.
Even though now I own a car based in New York. Like, for instance, cycling has done a resurgence in travel. Cycling tours have become important because, sure, you can do walking tours. There only are certain sort of few hours of stuff, but cycling tours are going through the roof in so many different ways in the travel industry because you're inside. River cruising so much better than the big cruising, because in river cruising you can see life happening on the sides.
It's a really interesting category, river cruising.
Yeah, river cruising is such a more human experience compared to the artificial
it's the back door to culture. Everything else is just you're just delivered via the artery or road systems. It's a really unique way of experiencing life and culture.
There's a company that I was speaking to the CEO, this Italian CEO that I met last week in New York. And he's on the luxury end of rail.
Okay.
Which is also very interesting.
Very interesting, yeah.
Because it's a very archaic, but also a very human form of travel.
There's a glamour to it.
There's a glamour to it. And it's also, there's a lot of push in many different countries outside the West to revive these. Because they already have the train lines.
Yeah.
They have the lines. It's just a matter of buying these cars and then putting it on there. So anyway, fascinating. So I'm excited about these types of developments, honestly, over technology. Personally, a great boutique, like, what is the future of independent hotels when everybody's being bought by the larger company? Citizen M, which is a hotel that I liked, got bought by Marriott.
$400 million the other day, right?
Yeah. Which I hope that, like, they're one of the reasons why I really liked Citizen M, and you probably know this. They're probably the only hotel company that figured out the lobby experience in the best way possible. They put a lot of effort into making lobby as lively as possible. You go to anyone here in London, which I've actually stayed in a bunch of Citizen M's, they do a really good job. And so the future of independent hotels, again, this is a thing that I care a lot about.
Because there's been an extraordinary period of roll-up.
Yeah, there has been. I mean, pretty much a lot of them are gone. Graduate hotels that I liked a lot, which was just such a genius idea, which is open boutique hotels next to universities in university towns. One in where I went to school, Bloomington, Indiana, which used to have like Hampton Inn type things. And they had downtown, they opened one, and it was brilliant. And they adopt the design and iconography of the university that they are in, which is, again, a genius idea.
Great idea.
Got bought by Marriott or Hilton? Hilton bought it, I think. So I'm a little sad about these indie chains. They're not boutique as an individual. I think the individual hotel stuff will continue. It's how do small chains come about? That's harder now because everybody's being bought. You need scale, both in terms of distribution, in terms of loyalty, in terms of real estate power, in terms of labor, all this stuff. So that's become harder and harder.
I think it's a bit of a sad future if the art of hospitality and like what it means to truly deliver that as an independent.
But the West has already lost the script on hospitality. I mean, you and I come from the eastern part of the world. You go to Dubai or anywhere in Middle East or India or Southeast Asia. I mean, we wrote an article, one of our, somebody on Skift wrote this article, is like, when you land in Bangkok or any of the Southeast Asian cities, and if everybody's friendly, how does America compete against that on hospitality? Just cannot. I went to Bangkok last month, and I've been to Bangkok a few times, but not tons of times. So it was relatively reintroduction for me for Bangkok. I hadn't been in a while. And like, there was I was there for 3 days, so what count 3 times 3, 9 meals. Except for the crappy hotel breakfast. I didn't have a single bad food, and it wasn't high end at all.
Yeah.
It was all...
But to your point, it's that friendliness. If you take the US, I think on the whole, America's a fairly friendly place, but it's also peppered by moments of unnerving hostility.
Big cities particularly.
That just undermine all the rest of it. We were like, wow, there's a lot of pent up aggression here. Americans are really friendly, like interested, ask questions, on the whole are like very, very friendly.
But cities have become so wired, manically wired, so that the manicness of social media is now real life in America. It really is.
I agree. I do think London's quite relaxed.
Compared to, yes, 100%.
It's fairly relaxed, but it's still like when you go to places like Dubai, you're right, like Bangkok, like,
I mean, is the one question for you, is Dubai friendly or Dubai is just efficient?
That's a good question. I don't know if there's a feeling of friendliness, actually. You're right,
Yeah,
it's
warm,
efficient.
probably not warm.
But what I'd say it's efficiency underpinned by a sense of optimism.
Yeah, that's true.
And that maybe is the thing that just changes the collective disposition of the place.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't know if I wouldn't call it friendly.
Yeah.
Actually, but I would call it exactly efficient and optimistic.
Yeah, but I would take the Dubai airport experience 100 times out of 100 compared to...
and that airport's going to be sunset in like 5 years.
And that for us is great, as it is now. Abu Dhabi airport is really,
it's incredible.
really good.
I can't believe it's going to be shut down.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And move to the south.
Yeah.
What do you think is going to happen to that region?
So it's interesting. I mean, the booming parts are only 2 countries for now. Well, one is booming, one is in the investment phase. So it's UAE.
Yeah.
That's in booming phase. They've done the investment. They continue to make investment.
And that's going to last, do you think?
That's going to last. Yeah. I mean, Dubai is an iconic city now. It's in its own orbit. There was, I remember when Saudi was first coming on the map 10 years ago, a bunch of the Dubai tourism folks that I spoke to were worried about, what's going to happen. A lot of Saudi folks used to come to Dubai to let their hair down, etc. And, but Dubai is an orbit of its own. However bad UK is, London is still a thriving city in many ways. Certainly from a tourist perspective, will continue to be. I just walked past Buckingham Palace and what a shit show in terms of the number of people. So it's still thriving. What was the question? What were you talking about?
I was asking you what you think is going to happen in the Middle East, basically,
Middle East. So,
and what excites you in the area, because there's a lot.
The hospitality is incredible.
Yeah,
like the genuine hospitality, the Arab hospitality is beautiful.
Yeah, it's good.
Poor Jordan. Anything sneezes in its orbit, Jordan gets affected. It's an incredible product. Incredible. Egypt, well, this I'm talking North Africa. So if you expand from Middle East to North Africa, incredible culture, meats, desert, meats, food. And so I think the authentic hospitality that we all talk about is just part of the culture. And so I think Saudi, let's talk about Saudi. Saudi has changed incredibly. For those, anybody who's been there can vouch for it. They started here, they aimed for here, they're going to end up here.
Exactly.
They're going to have tons of setback. They're going through tons of setback right now. I think the mistake that they had was chasing too many shiny objects versus they had the most captive audience of all countries. The religious traveler that has to go, expand from there, versus we're going to create shiny objects in the desert. I think they're scaling back on many of those, as you and I know.
Yeah. And
I think for all the sports washing stuff, I think it's actually smart. The sports stuff as a hub for live tourism, as we talked about, live sports, if they can pull off these things well, like Qatar did, despite all the challenges and all the negative stuff that happened, it's probably one of the most well-organized World Cup that people enjoyed without alcohol.
Yeah. Which is a remarkable thing.
Which is remarkable. And so, and it helped improve the image of that region. I think a more relaxed Saudi is great for the Muslim world and the world as it is. As a Muslim, anytime these bad things happen and they had some Saudi origin, we, like the rest of the world's Muslims, had to bear the brunt of it.
Yeah.
And so just from that perspective, I'm happy that this is happening. So I am rooting for it, besides the fact that half my family lives there. So
Yeah. Your parents are still
used to
your
live there.
father,
No,
sorry.
they used to live there. My sister lives there. My cousins live there. The youth are very, very hopeful. This is the indication, like when you go to India, for instance, or you go to Middle East, Southeast, maybe less Southeast Asia. If you see the young that are hopeful, then you see something good is ahead for this part of the world. Like India,
There's a
you
lot
go.
of young people there.
There's so many
mainly
young
people
tons
30-ish.
And
which is also a remarkable thing, actually. To have an entire country where it was 70% of the population are under the age of 30.
Yeah.
Or under the age of 35, maybe. Something like that.
Yeah, and they're very wired and all. They're very global. This is the other thing that we forget, like how much common now how flat the world's become.
Absolutely.
All of them are watching the same Netflix shows that we are.
Do you think that's a good thing or a bad thing?
If it loses part of their identity, yes, it's a bad thing.
Yeah.
But it still becomes a hybrid. Like in India, any of these Western brands go and become such a hodgepodge of Indianness and Westernness. I mean, just look at pizza in India. An Italian goes there, will have a heart attack on the variations of pizza that Indians have come up with. I find it incredible. As in, like, chicken tikka pizza or whatever else they come up with.
The thing that used to really upset me about India a decade ago was that I felt that it misinterpreted certain Western ideals, especially the affluent. It taken a very surface level impression of what.
Of course, it happens tons in India.
But now it's becoming more rooted, or it's become over the last decade more rooted, more genuine, and actually more Indian. For example, you see this everywhere, actually, because for a period of time we just exported this Western ideal of, Friends. Watching Friends, do you know what I mean? And that became like an aspirational ideal.
Every Indian who ever first time visits New York thinks like, this is how it's going to be. Friends is how New York is.
But it's true, because like this is the beginning of the homogenization. This was like when actually everyone suddenly had these global reference points. Do you know what I mean? And so that you ended up with this slightly homogenized global ideal of what it meant to, like, what you thought you aspired to. And that's obviously now been completely disintermediated again, right? So it's like now everyone's on YouTube watching things that are perhaps a little more, more of a blend.
Even though the one mistake that I'll say people assume is they assume that a lot of world culture has become the same, which it has. But there's still so many differences. You go to any country. Yes, there'd be surface level adoption of the Western thing, but the centuries old ingrained cultural habits take a long time to change.
Yeah, I definitely think actually I think these things happen in cycles, and so I feel that now I'd say maybe there's, in my opinion, more of a sort of common method of expression, but the source ingredients of what we choose to express are actually very, very unique and becoming actually in a way more unique.
And it's also like, in fact, one of the things for me is fascinating is that you go, for instance, to Morocco, a country I've been many times. You see the Western things, but you then also see variations of those Western. And then for me, the fascinating part is, what are the things that are different of those Western things, whether it's food, like McDonald's, as a very basic example. What is McDonald's? How is McDonald's different in Morocco versus India versus US versus UK? One, I can actually eat McDonald's in Morocco because it's halal. So there's that part. India, you go, there's tons vegetarian.
Yeah.
So those, I'll give you a personal example. Prayers, as a Muslim, technically there's a one way to pray, but every culture has its own variation. So for me, the most fascinating part going into any country, Muslim or non-Muslim, if I go to a mosque and then I notice different variations of certain practices, to me, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
Like, how do you observe cultural differences and cultural sameness? For me, that's the most fascinating part of travel, is just learning. This is why I've to come back and maybe put a full pin to this. The human differences and the human commonalities is still the best part of travel. It's still the best part of travel. And Scenery, yes. Like, like Iceland, for instance. I'm not going there for culture. We'll probably never go there for culture. But I mean, beautiful scenery, very different than any other part of the world. But it's the human context of commonalities and differences that I think we all live for, not only during travel, but also during our daily lives in so many different ways.
I couldn't agree more. Rafat, what's the thing that most concerns you about the world we're leaving the kids?
Patience. This is the thing that I think about quite a bit. Like, how do we develop resiliency in the kids when everything is abundant and omnipresent and on demand? Maybe this is a very Western thought that I have. But even in, the place that I come from, India, everywhere. Now this is a problem everywhere. Are people having enough relationships? Friends, cousins? There's not that much literature, but I've read a few things on importance of cousins growing up. Like having cousins around and playing with them and sort of growing up with cousins. Like cousins have had such a formative part of my life because I grew up in India living near cousins. Now my kids barely know their cousins, and not just me. This is true for everybody. So I think the thing that worries me most is, in general, loneliness, isolation of human beings from each other.
Do you think capitalism is just fundamentally fairly geared towards hyper-individualism?
Yeah, I mean, US is the worst example of it, which is why, again, going back to Morocco, an extreme example of family friendliness and sort of social milieu of how everything is structured, everything for people to gather together, families, cities, everything. And I'm sure there are tons of negative parts of it too.
Yeah.
But like the extreme individualism that we've seen, I mean, there's reason why there's so many homeless people in New York or San Francisco or cities in the West. This is the apex of sort of the hyper individualistic thing gone wrong. I'll give you the last example that I like citing. There's some, like, you're on a street in New York, you're walking down. There's a person coming down the street with a stroller. There's a baby in there. That person has a dog. Guaranteed, people will address the dog, but will ignore the child. So we've lost the script. We have lost the script.
You're so right. My last question is, but we always end with the same couple of questions. So is just simply what excites you the most personally in the next couple of years?
Yeah. Personally, my kids growing up, I have 3 kids. I have 2 adopted kids from Morocco, and I'm Indian. So the fusion of Indian and Moroccan culture, which if you think about it is such a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it's nice.
Is fascinating. I'm excited about where Skift is going. At 13 years in, I'm enjoying it so much. I know you are too, because you and I have talked about it. And it's this, I don't know, well-oiled, I guess we've become seasoned. Is that the term?
I think so.
Like enough oil has gone into us, and like it's a whatever fire we're put over, we somehow come out better.
Yeah.
So I think that part I'm enjoying a lot. Working with my team around me, that is just so great, and how we bounce back and forth with each other. Some of my team.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that part hugely. So those are some of the things that I'm enjoying.
It's lovely to hear. Rafat, thank you.
Of course, thank you.
It's been a joy.
Of course.